Deion Sanders, Mr. God himself. Well, I mean, he don't call himself God, but he talks a lot about God. You hear him saying that God gave me this and God spoke to me and I went through this with God and I got out of this with God and everything's about. Apparently, people have a problem with him saying that because they see a different lifestyle that he conducts himself in on the football field, and they consider that uh, a problem. Okay, so you have one voice that you say you're all about God, and they say that the next minute when you're on the football field, you seem to portray a whole different characteristic. And what they're leaning to is him having people like Lil Wayne as an opener to bring your team onto the field. So, is there any merit to people having a problem with him having Lil Wayne while still espousing that God is his all and everything? Here's my problem with it. The same people that are calling him out on being inconsistent with his faith almost seem to have no faith themselves. And they're probably the same people that will deny the stuff they hear that they ought to do because they don't feel that it applies to them. Glass house, meat stone, that kind of person. With Deion, I can't say that what he's experienced with God is true or false because I don't live his life. However, is the criticism fair? That's what we really have to ask. Is the criticism fair? Because I think it might be on this one aspect. If you do really believe that God is the one that put you in the position you are, gave you what he gave you, all of it comes from him, and you are always going to be thankful to him for it, maybe, it's a thought, maybe have what you do outside of your statements reflect your statements. Because at the moment it's not. It's like trying to recruit Satan to publicize Christ for people. You get what I'm saying, Deion? People are seeing a different statement being made by your life and then one being said by your mouth. Now, I don't know if your goal is to, win people over for God. I don't know if that's your goal. Or you just feel like telling people that there's a hope out there outside of yourself, and so you go to God. I have no clue. But people see inconsistency. Now, one person in particular that saw inconsistency was a man named Jason Whitlock.
Man claiming God as his motivating force invited the gangster rap world to his locker room, to his sidelines, to Boulder, Colorado, and everywhere.
I have a problem with him too, and see if you can catch why that is when you hear what he says right here.
That's Lil Wayne leading them out of the locker room. This ain't Kirk Franklin leading them out of the locker room.
Okay, I caught it right away. He said, why would you have Lil Wayne when, in essence, by the way, I'm not quoting him, when you could have had someone like Kirk Franklin? Jason, they're one and the same. If you have Kirk Franklin doing your opening, you might as well have Satan doing it for you, and you might as well have Lil Wayne doing it for you, Eminem, anybody else. Heck, you could have had Ted Bundy doing it for you if you're going to have Kirk Franklin do it for you. Because whether you know it or not, Kirk Franklin ain't the best example of God neither. Okay, that dude has some major problems. But then again, it might actually work out to be more correct because Kirk Franklin does the same thing that Deion Sanders is doing as far as people concerned, saying one thing and living a whole nother. So in the end of it, this is what I've concluded. If Deion honestly believes, and it's true, that he has had a life transforming event with God, that's for Deion to experience, not us. But if his goal is to win people for Christ, my advice to Deion would be consistent in your behavior, both when it comes to interviews and football. You can't separate the two. Either you're all in or you're not. There's no partial in. Okay, I'll say that much. But I am not here to tell you that Deion did not have an encounter with God. He may not be portraying it, living it out fully and correctly. But I can't dog him for talking about God if he did have an encounter. Now, mind you, I do understand that there are people who will use God as a blanket for everything they get. Heck, Beyonce said, I want to thank God when she serves the devil blatantly. Okay, so there are people that will say, I thank God when it's not really God, but they have to make a declarative statement to make people believe that what they are doing is good. And I can fully get both sides of the spectrum. So I have two bits of advice. If you don't know for sure that he had an encounter with God, don't assume that he didn't. But if you see an action being done by the person, say that they're all about God, that goes contrary, just file it away and ignore the person altogether. Double-minded man, unstable in all his ways and all that. Then deal with you. Because what's really the case is his walk is not yours. It might be a good example of what not to do, but it's not your walk. And to you, Deion, if you see this, I don't know if you will or not, my advice to you would be to really analyze the things that people see about you so that what you say matches what you do. Because as you say, you're going and mentoring children. Children will learn a lot more from your actions than your statements. And I think you know this. So if your goal really is to exalt the name of the person you say you are so thankful to, just some advice, maybe live a life that reflects exactly what you're saying. Because otherwise, they're going to see one thing, hear another, and more than likely follow what they see as opposed to what they hear. Just some advice from an older head.